On in. I actually stayed up for the Lua release, so I summoned. Make sure you guys let me know in the comments below how your summons went. I did pretty good. 2 copies of her and 2 copies of her artifact with a little over a pity's worth. So I definitely can't complain. I had a lot of people in my Twitch stream like pulling 2-3 copies in 10 pulls. If you guys pitied, let me know. I'm sorry that happened, but the luck will come around, I promise, hopefully. But yeah, guys, we have a lot to talk about. This is going to be a general guide on just Lua. Is she worth your bookmarks? How strong is she? I already have so many people talking about her. There's people testing her right now, and there's something I think Smilegate messed up on royally, big time. Smilegate screwed up. We're going to talk about that as well, but more of a shortened guide as I didn't want to step foot into RTA for a few reasons. We'll discuss that, and yeah, I'll show you some summon footage, arena footage, and let's talk all things Lua. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Alrighty, y'all, let me go ahead and pull up the Lua page. Y'all can see what I kind of just scraped together. Remember, guys, I'm not a speed player. I'm not a cleaver. I'm not a control player. But this is what I used. I was messing around in arena, and oh my god, guys, as someone with no cleave experience, she's absolutely busted, at least for those speedy, take control of the match kind of comps, and I think she enables that so well. But before we talk about her build, mola, artifacts, all that good stuff, if she's worth your summons or not, I want to talk about a few things on why I think Smilegate messed up big time. Okay, come along with me over here to the browser, and I'm going to show you all a few things here. The first thing I think Smilegate messed up on is that we were all under the impression, maybe this was our mistake for assuming, if you do play RTA, Smilegate's kind of been on this trend lately, as they're trying to adjust the balance patches, hero releases. They've made multiple statements saying that they don't want heroes and balance patches to coincide, or at least end near the end of the arena season. So RTA season is ending in a little over a week, about a week exactly, and they've shown in the past, as you can see here, that before they were able to global ban heroes and Artis. In the past, there was Yulha and Sphere Satyrs. When she came out, you couldn't play her in RTA. Furthermore, they've stated, right? Let's go ahead and read this together, boys. Furthermore, even though the recently released hero Hwa has a controlling performance, speaking of Hwa nerfs, we need to talk more about that as well. She was released at the end of the season, causing confusion and disappointment to players, right? Even if you're not an RTA player, gentlemen, try to have some, gentlemen and ladies, try to have some compassion, some empathy for players that like to, you know, grind the whole season, put in the work to build up comps, and then Smilegate kind of just throws that all in its head by releasing very powerful units, or any units period, but especially powerful units like Hwayoung, like Ida, excuse me, not Ida, what's her name, Lua, at the end of the season, kind of just shaking things up and sort of ruining all the work he put in up to that date. So they say here, causing confusion and disappointment to players. It is our big mistake to repeat the same mistake, considering that our players had given us opinions on similar occasion when the previous collaboration was released. I believe that was for Rimuru. The slime collab, guys, also happened at the end of a season, and that really shook things up as well. Starting from the next season, we will prevent the problem by restricting the use of new heroes and artifacts in World Arena for a certain period before closing. The reason I bring this up is because I'm glad some of my viewers were able to find this, and that kind of proves that this Yula thing, because some people were speculating that Lua is not meant to be pre-banned, or global banned, excuse me, and that they were just adding this in because this was for the World Cup, the World Championship. But no, they've stated, right, ever since Rimu, that early collab, they don't want units to come out in the last week of RTA and, you know, sort of ruin the integrity of what players did the entire rest of the season, as RTA season do last a long time. So just heads up, guys, I wouldn't be surprised if Smilegate brings down RTA by the time y'all watch this, depending on how late you watch it. But as of recording, as soon as she was summoned, players are already using her in RTA. I'm sure you'll see posts on Reddit and Stove, and I do think that is quite a mistake for them to let this slide. They've stated in the past that this shouldn't be a thing, and for them to overlook this, let's see how they damage control or come up with a statement. Maybe some compensation. I'm not expecting anything. I don't think we should get anything, but I do think this was definitely neglectful on their end, and hopefully players that are playing a lot of RTA don't get too impacted, you know, fighting all the Luas, or the players that are abusing, I should say, Lua, because she's not supposed to be there. Let's see how that pans out. All right, let's jump back into the game. Enough about that kind of technical stuff, guys. The new hero is here, so let's go ahead and talk about her. If you do like to play her, just be aware of what's happening in RTA. But for everyone else, let's go ahead and talk about Lua. So this is the kind of speed build I cobbled together, and like I said, I was just playing some arena, and I didn't want to step into RTA in case, you know, they were going to bring it down and maybe global ban her. We'll see. Hopefully by the time I read y'all's comments, Smilegate will have made an announcement, or at least done something, either saying that they're going to let her be usable for the last week, or, you know, trying to global ban her. But anyways, yeah, I played a lot of arena with her, not knowing any experience. I wanted to go for speed, have enough effectiveness just so we can land an early sleep on problem units like Rimu, boys, things like that. This skill is very powerful. that leads into an extra skill. So we get 2 souls, get to sleep a problem unit, and then lead into the next area of effect skill, Sweet Talk, which does not, you know, interrupt that sleeping unit. So you can either sleep something that might cut, you can sleep annoying units like Rimu and eat up their skill 2 passive, and then lead into this skill 3, which is so powerful, guys. Not only can you soul burn it to ignore ER in case they have some high ER cleansers, we also dispel 1 buff and inflict Beguile, which if it rocks the entire way, guys, that can do up to 30% for every single unit on the enemy team, assuming it lands. On top of that, we increase speed of all our allies, meaning our already fast comp hopefully gets even faster. And then to top it all off, she does have closing potential, or at least she can help close out matches with this insane defense break. I opted not to mull it, but we'll talk about mull suggestions after. So here's the build, boys. I just opted for a lot of speed, some effectiveness. I could definitely see some players trying her in more of a standard build with higher ER, but I want to make sure I see what Smilegate does for RTA before I bring her out there, as your builds between Arena, Guild Wars, and Real-Time Arena, of course, will vary big time, right? So I think in later for RTA, I'll probably try her. I'm going to slow her down. I'm going to give her some effect resistance, and then just use her as more of a utility, less as like a speedy, aggressive, or cleave opener. But right now for Arena, guys, as fast as possible with some imprints. I'm not really the fastest. Some of y'all might think 290 is pretty fast, but depending how far you go, right? There's some insane players out there that can easily make a 300, 310. Lua, Silius, whatever opener pair, whatever they want. So this may not cut it, but I do bring some imprints just to make sure we get to go first. Suggestions for you guys. I would in the beginning just play her more utility. Definitely emphasize some speed. That way you have options. When you go first, you have the option. You have so many plays you can do in terms of what you want to sleep on problem units. Landing that Beguile to just push back the skills. This is the most important thing why we wanted to go first, is so that we can stop those pesky units. Not just cleansers, but anything. We can do increased skill cooldown, and boys, there's absolutely insane amounts of stuff we can hit with his increased skill cooldown, and the fact that we can soul burn to ignore ER2 is just absolutely oppressive. And honestly, I don't think she should have this, to be quite frank, but it's here, so let's not complain about it right now. This is not a, you know, we're not talking about who needs nerfs at the moment. So just build her as fast as possible, guys. Give her some effectiveness, because you will get resisted if you skimp on that. And then later on, let me know if y'all try more standard or maybe even turn 2 tanky kind of builds. I'm not sure how effective that'll work, but the fact that she has defense break and she can kind of grind down some matches means maybe she has some viability there. I do think she's that powerful, but honestly, her most important build, I think, is just building her fast. Now, one other thing, I do think she can definitely do some damage. If you have some insane gear and you can put both speed, crit damage, and some effectiveness, maybe we don't even need that depending on what we're bringing her into. But she actually, her multipliers were revealed, and they're actually pretty decent, especially the skill 2 can hit super hard. So just a heads up, guys, especially for those of you that want to build like crit, maybe for Caval or something. Just keep in mind, you'll only activate it through the skill 2, and then you won't be able to skill 3 unless you want to skill 1 if you want to set up Caval by yourself. But just a quick thought. If you want to build damage on her, that's an extra bonus. All right, let's quickly move on to skill enhancements, guys. I do think she's a great Grace of Growth target. But overall, she can be light on Mola. I would suggest, if you can, to try to get this skill 1 to the +5 for the extra 50%, right? So we can get a coin flip of a defense break, because 2-turn defense break is absolutely insane. And if you put her on Guiding Light or have some bulk on her, she will be able to skill 1 in a lot of matches, potentially multiple skill 1s. So having that increased chance to land those game-breaking defense breaks is pretty vital. The skill 2, skip on this in the beginning, guys, unless you want to try that damage build I mentioned earlier. Do keep in mind, this has great multipliers, so if you want to try, I shouldn't say great, but it is pretty good. You can do a damage Lua, and I think it'll actually be decent. But in the beginning, if you're strapped, definitely skip this for sure. And then the skill 3, we definitely should get the -1 turn cooldown, right? Because she is a crazy cycler between her extra skill, or her extra turn, and then the speed up for entire squad. Plus, you're going to build her speedy as well. Now, artifact selection. This part's a little interesting. We can do a lot of different arties. Since it's only day 1, I don't want to speak about everything, and please let me know if y'all are trying out some extra stuff in the comments. But let's go ahead and go through the artifact selection. The first artifact, I think that if you just want to get a Lua up and running, I think Guiding Light is a no-brainer. It'll start her in stealth in case, you know, your opponent is faster. In case we want to make her more survivable without putting too much bulk on her, right? The follow-up stealth is great as well. This, I think, is just a good overall artifact. Another good one that a lot of players may overlook and use on the upcoming Emma Elena instead, I think Unseen Observer is definitely good. We get 15% CR to cycle faster, and we just straight up acquire 10 souls. Now, this is a front-loaded artifact, as we only get the 10 souls once. It's kind of like Toggle Hells. And depending on what kind of comps you're bringing, you may not need just the 10 souls, or 10 souls may not do enough to get like a full, if you need 20 soul burn. But keep in mind that units that only need 10 soul burns, or 10 souls for their big like damage boost, things like that, this could be a great artifact as well. Last but not least, and I did tell y'all I pulled 2 copies. Let's go pull up the summon page. Don't forget, guys, I would love to hear how your summons went for this absolutely busted unit, and I'll give my overall take at the end for day 1 impressions. But last but not least, let's talk about this Spatio. Where do I find it? Spatio Temporal Fan. Is this artifact a must-have? No. Is Lua must-have? No. They're not limited, so don't worry too much. However, I think Lua is definitely very, very powerful, and you should try to pick up 1 copy in case they never rerun her banner, a la Hwayoung. Hwa, I don't think got any banners unless you wanted to use her on a selector. If Smilegate does deem her too powerful, they may try to limit reruns on her or the artifact. But let's go ahead and look at the artifact real quick. Spatial Temporal Fan. We get some effectiveness, which is okay. A little bit of stat stick, and she does like effectiveness. After using a non-attack skill, remember, we want to max limit break this if we plan to use it, so it is a little bit of a whaley artifact. But we have a 100% chance to grant stealth to the ally with the highest attack, except for the caster for 2 turns, and it can only be activated every 4 turns. So there will be some downtime. You can't permanently keep a unit stealth, but if you guys are able to max this, and you don't need Guiding Light per se, I do think this is a very powerful artifact for some of you that play outside of the box, that like to make interesting comps. The fact that we can give a unit, right, and you can pick that unit by giving it the highest attack on your team, stealth from a ranger, I think is so cool. I'm afraid of fighting it. I hate that's going to make sure, you know, I have some area of effect or some reach on all my units in case people bust us out. It could surprise a lot of players. It can be great, obviously, in Arena Guild Wars. But the fact that it's whaley and the fact that it's not limited means make sure very carefully, guys, before you invest into it, you know, already have a mind or an idea of what you want to use, are willing to bottle it, or put in the work, the bookmarks, to try to max limit break this if you don't get lucky. Okay, just heads up, if you don't max it out, there will be some RNG elements involved, and I think it would really suck to have your whole game plan ruined because you weren't able to get 6 copies of this fan. Okay, anyways, guys, that's overall. Let me quickly talk about Lua again, as I sort of did mention her. Right now, a lot of the top players are using her in RTA, and the general consensus is that she's a little bit, I'm putting this lightly, guys, she's a lot a bit overtuned. The fact that she has her kit with the base speed she has access to, I do think she is a power crap unit, meaning she will shape the meta. She will be a top, you know, a first pick material unit. People will fight over her or pre-ban her. And I do think she opens up so many possibilities in terms of different play styles, in terms of different units. And I think she just does a little bit too much with the ignore effect resist, the skill pushback, and all of that together, I think, guys, is a little bit too much. I'm being conservative. Some players you're going to hear, she's absolutely busted. I think so too, but day 1, I like to be a little bit more cautious than, you know, saying we need to stop this menace at the moment. So overall, definitely pick up 1 copy, guys, and then decide if you want to use her artifact or not. If anything, make sure you get Guiding Light on the Cerise banner, which should be coming up either the end of the year or early next year, I think, is when she's run. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up there. Stay tuned for another video when RTA, after I hear Smilegate, decide if she's allowable in RTA, if it's an oversight or not. And then I'll try some slower, maybe tankier Luas for us that don't play speed and massive cleave comps. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.